welcome to another edition of the wonderful show we call Lab Rats. My name is Andy Walker.
I'm Sean Carruthers.
And this is the show that demystifies technology. Specifically today, we're going to demystify something you probably put your hands on every day. No, not that. We're talking about your mouse. Today we're going to look at mice and sort of where they've come from, right, Sean?
Yep. Where
they're going, some of the new technologies that we're sort of seeing showing up.
Yes, sir. Now, people think that the mice have been around forever. They haven't, as you know well. The mouse was invented at, I think, Palo Alto Research Center by a guy named Douglas Engelbart in the 60s.
It was called, wasn't a very sexy name. It was XY Positional Indicator.
Yeah, and it was a wooden box.
And it was in a box with a tail.
And it's come a long way since then.
It has. So today we're going to cover off sort of, okay, so that thing that you got used to 10 years ago has sort of evolved, I think, 4 times or 5 times. So we're going to cover off the different technologies, talk about some new models out there, and just kind of make you a mouse expert. Exciting.
A mouse-spert.
No mouse balls jokes.
Wouldn't dream of it.
Okay. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, the mouse demystified. Today on Lab Rats. Speaking of mouse balls, let's start at the beginning. So originally, the original mouse technology was a device that looked very similar to the one today, except it had a little ball inside of it. You have one right there.
We do, yeah. So we talked at the beginning of the show about the XY positional indicator that Douglas Engelbart created, and that actually had a little metal rollers underneath. But when they finally commercialized this, they decided, okay, that's not going to work for most people. So let's put a little ball underneath that, so a little rubber ball, and this is what we have here. This is what a lot of people that started with it in the early days can remember, just a little ball that rolls on the desktop, and as you roll it back and forth and side to side, it changes the position of the cursor on your screen. Now, how that works is we actually have the other side of it here. It's got these 3 little rollers in here that roll in different ways. So you roll it this way, the rollers will move around, and depending on which direction you're doing it, the different rollers will activate.
I remember writing a column on this on how to clean your mouse, because of course those rollers would get dirty.
They do get dirty. So I mean, this is actually relatively clean, but most of these things right in here would have like gigantic lumps of or rings of dirt, and it's like all the oil on your fingers and all of the dust on your desk would just get in there, and of course at that point then the mouse would just stop working properly.
But this is kind of archaic, right? It really is. I mean, we're talking about technology from the mid-90s, I imagine.
Yeah, this is like even in the 80s when this first. I mean, like Apple introduced the Macintosh in 1984. They weren't the first ones to invent a mouse, but they were the first ones to really popularize it. And that's when it started taking off. So we get rid of this.
Bye-bye.
We don't need that anymore.
Okay, good.
That's really, really old school technology. And
so we moved to the optical mouse. That was sort of, I guess, the first. And really, the mouse didn't change for, as you said, from the 80s through to about the mid-90s or so.
Yeah. So it was a long, long time. But when they decided, okay, so this doesn't work very well. You have this roller thing, and you can only go so far. And then if you go off a corner, then the ball will shake, and it's not very sensitive, and sometimes it jams up inside. So let's remove the moving parts in here, because I mean the problem with all the gunk inside the mouse, wherever it may be, is that as soon as it started getting gunked up, the roller stopped moving.
Yeah, and the ball would slip.
And the ball would slip. So it's mechanical. Every time you add mechanics into something, you risk something going wrong. So what they did was they changed this to a little optical sensor. Can you do that?
Can you see it?
Not so well. Anyway, so there's a little red light in here and a little camera.
Right.
So what it's doing is it's shining down on the desk. You can maybe see that right there. Yeah. So it's shining down on the desk with the light and then reflecting back up into the sensor. So it's basically reading what's going on the desk itself. It's not measuring how it's moving against the mouse. It's measuring how it's moving against the surface.
Sure.
So now that's good. It doesn't have any moving parts in there except the buttons on the top. And it theoretically should work a whole lot better. Well, dust still got in there. It's a little bit easier to deal with that. You just, and now you're done. Yeah. And back to moving it around on the desk and seeing how it works.
The other problem, of course, with this was it didn't work on glass.
Didn't work on glass.
Didn't work on reflective surfaces or very, very
uniform surfaces. Yeah. So if you had one of those old school jet black desks with nothing on it to differentiate one little section of the desk from the other, it doesn't work so good.
Right.
So it was a great idea as long as you had something like wood grain or a mouse pad that had some sort of texture or anything else. But yeah, as soon as it reflected down onto a piece of glass, and a lot of people put glass on top of their desktop to protect the wood, it wouldn't work anymore.
Right,
so
right.
now you're back to putting a mouse pad on there, and you're back to the same exact place you were before with the regular old mechanical mouse.
Right. Luckily, of course, lasers came along, and was the laser mouse was next?
Laser mouse was more or less next, yes.
More or less. Okay.
We saw this a few years back now. I've got an Arc mouse from Microsoft, and this is one of the newer ones that's out there, but laser's been out for a few years. Yeah. And instead of the red underneath, it's got a little laser down here, and it basically shines a laser down on the desk and back up.
Right.
So now this is way more sensitive than the optical mouse with the little camera and the red light.
So better resolution on the mouse.
Better resolution.
Right, so it captures finer movements. Right.
Yeah, and it's a little bit more compact as well. So just think about it, the CD player that you have or the DVD player, it uses a laser and it shines down onto the disc and then back up, and the beam is very, very fine.
Sure.
And so it has much better resolution, and even on surfaces that beforehand with the red optical mice were considered too uniform. Now it can actually sense tiny little differences between the things. So you still couldn't use these really well on like black surfaces, still couldn't use them on reflective surfaces because it would scatter the beam. But it was a heck of a lot better than it was before. And I said the fact that it could make them a little bit more compact means we've got the mouse here that you can just stow away here. Compare this to the size of this one right here.
Things start to get very small. So more resolution, right? Obviously smaller form factor. And of course then there was the blue laser was invented just a few years ago, sort of this decade, right, to allow for even more resolution. So let's talk about that.
Well, the blue laser, well, there's a bit of confusion there. There's the blue laser that was invented for Blu-ray, and that allowed better resolution on that. Now, there's something called blue track technology in mice. Now, you might be confused. It's not actually a laser. Okay. Apparently, this is an LED. Okay. So it's just a different wavelength here, and you can see underneath here that it actually has a blue light underneath and an optical sensor. So it's sort of like the optical mouse before the laser, but it uses a different wavelength. And it's the same general concept as with the DVDs. The old school DVDs and CDs used red laser. Sure. And when it went to a blue laser, it changed the wavelength down to a much narrower, smaller one, so you could get much more resolution out of it. And so that's what we had here with the optical mice. By changing to blue, it allowed better sensitivity, a better tracking, and all of that. So this one right here is the Microsoft Explorer mouse, and they have made a big deal out of blue track technology on there.
But is it all that better? That's what I want to know.
It is better. Now, when we first started looking at these, I saw these about a year ago for the first time, and okay, you still can't track on a mirror or anything like that. I mean, that's very hard because it reflects right back and just confuses the sensor. Yeah. But on a flat black desktop, it now tracks.
It does better, okay. So on uniform surfaces it's fine.
On uniform surfaces it'll work a lot better. And I did test it on an LCD monitor with the lights out. Basically it was off, just a flat black surface on there. It actually works on that as well.
Yeah, good.
So a lot better, not perfect.
Okay. All right, so clearly if you have mirrors all over your desk, not a good idea, but for everybody else, no problem, right?
Right.
So I don't know if there's anybody out there with that kind of situation, but maybe pimps. Sorry, pimps, mouse won't work for you.
There we go.
All right. What's next? Hybrid. Is it hybrid?
No, this one right here is one that's actually it's new from Logitech. It's called the Anywhere mouse. And what this is it actually is designed to track anywhere. And this actually even tracks on glass now.
Really?
So if you have a glass surface on top of your desk, this will work. Now, mirror, I'm not 100% sure about that. Maybe. I haven't actually tried it on a mirror yet because I don't have a pimp desk. So, but anyways, that's the same sort of thing. You just flip this open. There's the sensor inside there, and it will track. So it's slightly adjusted the laser beam.
What amazes me is there is like rooms full of scientists trying to figure this out. Right? It's just bizarre to me.
That's the thing. It seems like it should be like the easiest thing in the world. We've been using mice for 30 years now. Certainly, someone must have perfected it, but apparently not.
Well, so let's talk about that. How about going without a mouse? I mean, there's the Wacom tablet. You have one of those here, right? So if you want to go mouse-free, of course, then you go with the tablet.
Okay, so the tablet right here is a simple concept in that people prefer handwriting to using a mouse. It seems a bit more natural. So you actually grab a pen and start using this. And it is the same XY positional indicator that the mouse is, except now it's like one direction and the other direction, and you can just do this. So instead of moving your mouse around while holding down the mouse button to activate on your screen to draw, you just basically push down and do this. And it has a slight bit of sensing technology in here so that when you get close, it can sense that you're there, but it doesn't actually click until you press down. Okay. So now, not everyone likes this. You probably wouldn't want to use this on your regular desktop.
This is for like artists and things like that, right?
It's for artists, so it's an alternative for artists and for people that need to do very fine graphic work. Now another alternative is, and I use this is called a trackball. Now trackballs have been around since the 80s as well. They've been around almost as long as the old school rollerball mice. It has a ball here that you roll around instead of rolling the whole thing around on the desk. You move the ball instead.
It's an upside-down mouse is what it is.
It's an upside-down. Now this one is a combination of ball and optical, so it's got the sensor in there, and it actually senses the movement of this ball using the little patterns here.
Very cool.
Oh, is it dirty in there?
Very.
Yeah, well, that's the problem again with these optical ones and the trackballs is they still do get dirty, so you do have to clean them. And I want to show you. I've been saving the best for last here.
Okay, I know it's an Apple plug. Come on, bring it on.
All right, so this is the new Magic Mouse. We showed the Mighty Mouse here. Mighty Mouse was not perfect because it had little sensors in behind here, and it was a little bit touchy about how you used it.
Not so mighty.
It was not so mighty. A lot of people had huge problems. Still a mechanical roller ball in here. We have these rollers in a lot of these things for scroll wheels they're called. Sure. And they're mechanical, so they get gunk in them and they stop working, right? The new Magic Mouse, it's completely white, so it's hard to see on camera.
Don't drop it in the snow.
Don't drop this in the snow. But now what this is, now a lot of people are getting used to notebooks these days as opposed to working strictly
Well, that's all I use.
desktops.
Honestly, I haven't really touched a mouse in years.
So
I use a trackpad.
So you're used to using your finger on the trackpad, sort of.
Yeah.
So pretend this is your trackpad here. So you're used to just moving it around on the trackpad, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So this is a hybrid in that it is a mouse. You still roll it around on the desktop, and it has the sensor underneath that you can use to see. Now this is a laser as opposed to the LED, or sorry, as opposed to the old school optical. But this also has touch sensitivity on top, just like your trackpads. So you can actually scroll just by moving your finger down the length of the mouse. You actually right-click, left-click, and it'll sense there. You actually can use 2 fingers on here. You can use gesturing as well. So you want to go forward, just do it that way. You want to go back, flip that way.
Sounds to me like they've adapted the iPhone or iPod Touch technology inside a mouse.
Kind of. It is getting to that point. Now, this doesn't do a whole ton of features that way. There's a list of the kind of gestures you can use on it at the Apple website. I suspect because it has multi-touch capabilities and because you can gesture basically any direction on it you like, that some of the functionality will be unlocked later as people think, okay, we should make it do that. And just a little upgrade.
It's a software upgrade, yeah.
A software update. Now, the downside of this is it doesn't work on every system at the moment. It's a Bluetooth-based mouse, so it doesn't connect via the wires. You can see no wire. Most of the rest of these have dongles here, which is a bit of a downside because if you lose this when you're going from place to place, it's a bit of a hassle. This one right here sort of deals with this by sort of tucking it into the bottom, the Arc mouse, and it has a little magnet, so you can just flip it in and protect it that way. But you can still lose it. This one right here is all Bluetooth, so your computer has to have Bluetooth to use it. It requires updated system on your Apple. 10.5.8, I think, or 10.6.2, which as we tape this isn't out yet, so we don't have the full range of features that are available to it.
That's OS 10.
OS 10.
Yeah.
And on Windows, you can connect it via Bluetooth, and it has basic functionality, left and right click, but no special gesturing. Right. So if you're a Windows user and you think this is really cool, and I want to get it, don't get it yet, because you're not going to be able to scroll yet.
In good time.
In good time.
I am sure.
Yeah, and it's about $69, so it's a very pricey way to not be able to scroll at the moment. So
there you go. Mouse free, balls free mice. Today on Lab Rats. Didn't think we were going to show you that, did you? All right. Thank you for that, Sean. That's great. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we have a little preview of one of the shows out there on butterscotch.com, our new home on the web, and also Picture Time. That's after this. Well, we touched a bit on the history of the mouse, but we actually did a whole episode of a show called The Noob with Amber MacArthur a little while back, and we want to show you a clip from that kind of gets into where the mouse came from and how it was invented. So let's take a look at that when we come back, about the future of the mouse and Picture Time, of course.
Welcome on deck. I'm Matt Harris.
Hi, I'm Jay Goldman.
Welcome to the A-List.
Hi, welcome to Miss Download.
While it seems like the mouse has always been there on your home computer, that's not the case. With early computers made for the home, users interacted strictly through text. No windows, no desktop, no fancy graphic user interface. During these days, the keyboard was the only way to use your machine. In the early 70s, however, researchers at Xerox's Palo Alto Research Center were working on a new way to interact with computers, using a graphical representation of a desktop where you can move items around.
What are you doing?
This is the future of the mouse. Minority Report, right? Tom Cruise. If you think that the future of the mouse is got something to do with one of these guys, it's not, right? Here's the thing is we interact with our computer in a very kind of old way. A screen and a keyboard.
Yeah.
We don't interact with a computer like it's a, well, there you go.
This is my computer.
This is the beginnings of the future, right? It's tactile. So I don't think that we're actually going to, we will point and gesture, and we'll interact in a more natural way with computers moving forward. So the whole idea of the mouse will become almost obsolete.
Yeah, we've already seen a little bit of that with the HP TouchSmart PC, and with these, obviously, people are expecting a tablet to come out of the Apple labs any day now. And the funny thing is, last year at CES, when we went down there, I was walking around with my cameraman, Peter, and he was going up to computers, and the first thing he was doing is he was putting his fingers on the screen, and these were old school desktop computers. And it's not because he's stupid, it's because this is how we're starting to get used to. Well, I like you, Peter, but this is the way we're going. You're so used to touching your iPod and your iPhone that people just want to touch the computer screen now.
Yeah.
And I think if that's not the way it goes, if this isn't dead within 10 years, I'll be very surprised.
I think Logitech will be a software company doing, with sort of sensors and that sort of thing. That's what they'll make, and they'll kind of thing. There you go. All right, good. Any other thoughts about the future? Like, what about the near future? Do you have any sense of what they're going to do next after this guy?
I really don't know. I think probably if anyone's going to leap on top of that touchscreen technology and just get rid of the mouse altogether, I mean, they got rid of the floppy drive. They're working right now on getting rid of some other things in their technology, and I think the next thing to go will be the mouse. They'll just make it all touchscreen all the time.
There you go. Good. And then the screen after that. But speaking of screens, let's look at Picture Time.
We have a screen here. So we have, first up, we have a photograph from our friend Ian in the UK. He sent a picture of himself before, but this right here is a picture of his dad's business. They do auto racing stuff. And
cool.
This is it. They're not racing at the moment, but it looks like they're putting together a car to get it ready to race.
Okay, got it.
It looks like a strip mall or something like that, so I don't know where they'd be racing.
It's a racetrack.
Is it a racetrack?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
And next up, we have a website. We've asked people to send us their websites, and this one is from our friend Samuel Parnell, and he's in Marquette, Michigan, and he discovered us through our friend Vince.
Vince Bognat.
Vince Bognat. So he's part of the Vince Army, and he sent us this. It's samuelparnell.net, and he said, Sean, I know this is Vista, but I still do love Mac.
Oh,
so, thank you.
See, your fans still love you too. They don't want to make him upset about, loving Vista, like we all did, of course. All right. Vista! Well, that's it for us on that note. Don't forget to check out butterscotch.com, all the show notes for this show. If you want to buy any one of these guys, we'll tell you what it's called and where you can get it from, if it's still available, and the pricing too. And lots and lots of other shows on there. I think we have somewhere in the region of 1,600 pieces of video on butterscotch.com, 1,000 tutorials to learn about Twitter and Facebook and link.
It's 1,601 now.
There you go, and 2. So, so go on over there, surf on over after you finish watching the show, and check it out. Well, that's it for us this week. I'm all moused out.
Sounds good to me.
All right, well, my name's Andy Walker.
I'm Sean Carruthers.
We'll see you next time.
Are you ready? Try this at home.
Just try to watch, Shawnee, you're breathing down into the mic for those hits. Like when you laugh and stuff, laugh forward.
Yeah, laugh forward, John, please.
Ha ha ha! Ha ha ha! Exactly, that looks totally,
Ho, ho.
that looks totally natural.
Ha ha ha. Jesus. Laugh up.